From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
New plans to address violent crime in Billings.
We have a bigger issue than I was recognizing.
Police are arresting more gang members.
The only acceptable number of homicides or any violent crime for that matter is 0.
But their ages continue to be cause for concern. Good morning and welcome to Montana This Morning on this Thursday, March 7th. I'm Augusta McDonald. Violent crime in Billings continues to be a major topic, even as new numbers show incidents of violent crime declined in 2023 for a second straight year. New police department staff are helping shed light on gang activity in the city and coming up with creative ways to address it. Q2's Charlie Kleps explains.
So the purpose of this conference is to circle back.
City officials gathered Wednesday as Police Chief Rich St. John shared an in-depth look at the crime in 2023.
So in 2023, everything listed in that left category added up to 2908, which is a 3.2% decrease.
In total, violent crime cases, which include homicide, attempted homicide, sexual assaults, robbery, criminal endangerment, and assaults, dropped for a second straight year.
That being said, we are one bad weekend away from having that trend.
The police department experienced that firsthand in October when the city saw 6 shootings and 5 deaths, most gang-related, in just a 10-day span.
None of these cases were related. Most involved juveniles. All involved weapons. And frankly, it made 2023 a historic and tragic year.
Especially tragic, given the age of the suspects.
Of the juveniles that were present, the average age was 15 and a half years old. And when you add the few adults, brought the age up to 18.
That shocking change is due in large part to a growing gang problem in Billings, one that has also caught the attention of U.S. Attorney Jesse Lazovich.
Even though we have different jurisdictions, we are united in addressing this issue.
The U.S. Attorney's Office is focused on stolen weapons.
Prohibited persons possessing firearms, that's us.
While the Billings Police Department is also making changes of its own.
I have the ability to reassign people temporarily. Happen to have a bona fide gang expert from another department that came to work here. He's the one that brought it to my attention that we have a bigger issue than I was recognizing.
Police made 40 gang arrests from June through the end of last year, and I've already made 20 this year. Progress that St. John is happy to see, knowing his department still has more work to do.
The only acceptable number of homicides or any violent crime for that matter is 0. We'll work for that goal, as lofty as it is.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Charlie, thank you. The local youth services building or juvenile detention center where many teens are sent after being arrested is nearly at capacity. Just yesterday, there were 23 kids inside the 24-bed facility. Around 25% of youth at that center will stay for 30 days. Youth Services Director Valerie Weber tells us addressing this teen violence problem starts by addressing widespread mental health problems.
We need to put our money where our mouth is too. Our taxes need to be paying for mental health services. Because we are going to pay, if we leave untreated mental health problems in the adolescent system, it's even worse than it is in the adult system, we're going to pay the bill for that.
According to Billings Police, the average age of teens arrested for homicide in 2023 was 15 and a half. We'll continue to follow that story. Joining us now, we've got Miller Robson with some nice weather headed our way. Good morning.
Absolutely. A very beautiful weekend on the way. Let's take a live look right now. It's a nasty habit, but Augusta likes to chew her fingernails. There's a picture of one of them on the studio floor.
Whatever. That's why I have acrylic nails. I solved this problem. Thank you very much.
We're glad, happy to help. All right. Well, no, that is a waning crescent moon. I want to say it's about 18% illuminated. Let me check on that. But we get ready for our our March full moon, actually. It's going to be a micro moon. I believe it's March 25th. It's going to be the worm micro moon, and it's going to just appear smaller in the sky. But anyway, so that's a great shot there, by the way. That is a great shot. Let's take a step back in time. You know, it's been colder than average, and we're going to still hold on to that today. We had a high today, yesterday of 40. We're going to try to kind of come near that again today. So that's still going to put us about 6 degrees below average. Our overnight low a little colder than normal, but hang in there. We've got some really nice warm temperatures on the way. We're going to go back above average as we get into the weekend. It's going to be a bit breezy out there. Western foothills, get ready. We're going to have some strong winds across the weekend for you with gusts over 40 miles an hour. The moisture is gone outside of maybe a little bit of snow in the foothills and the mountains today. That's going to be about it as high pressure takes over as we head into the weekend with lots of wonderful sunshine on the way. Right now we're at 17, feels like 10 at the airport. Winds out of the west at about 5 miles an hour. Mainly in the single digits and teens this morning. A couple of areas really cold, like look at White Sulphur Springs sitting at 4. Glasgow actually below 0 with their actual temperature. Wind chills out there 5 to 10 degrees colder than what our actual temperatures are right now. But hang in there, just a really nice weekend on the way. We'll take a look at that and when our next chance of rain may be coming back into play in just a bit.
All right, Miller, thank you so
Stop
much.
chewing those nails.
Where is this coming from? Taking cheap shots at me. We'll solve this later. But first, let's get to this. New this morning, a local nonprofit with a mission to help people living with disabilities live independent lives is being forced to leave its longtime home after it flooded recently. Q2's Alina Howder shows us what happened and how you can help.
There's water damage as far as the eye can see here at Lift. You can see how the flooding eroded their baseboards. The nonprofit services have been halted for at least a week, but they're saying that they're looking at it as a blessing in disguise.
I sucked up 7 gallons of water just in 20 minutes.
It's been a heck of a week for Lift's financial director, Deborah Acosta, and her colleagues.
See the wetness on the ground.
This was all filled, as you can see, and so they've had to take out the molding.
A burst pipe over the weekend destroyed the carpets, the flooring, the drywall.
The furniture, more than 90% of our furniture is made of particle board and it absorbed water.
The flooding forced Lift to close for a week with many of their employees working remotely.
Most of our operation is downstairs and it's been affected.
We estimate that not being open to the public, we fail to help 50 persons a day and maybe take 200 telephone calls a day.
Last year, Lift served 2,500 disabled individuals in the region.
We are in front of my apartment.
Vern Anderson, who has cerebral palsy, was the very first person Lift served when it opened 37 years ago.
Lift means my independence.
Lift sends 3 personal care assistants to check in on Vern so that he doesn't have to rely on assisted living.
I wouldn't be able to A, live on my own, and B, be able to have the freedoms that I do out in the community also.
Though Lift's current facility is flooded, there's a silver lining.
It's just almost like the universe is saying, no, you got to move now because I have a lot of plans for you.
The nonprofit was set to move to what used to be St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in April.
So this will be our new PCA office.
But with that flooding, they're moving in this month.
It just increased the speed that change was happening. And believe it or not, change became a part of our life, and we welcome that.
Making the best of a soggy situation. In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
The nonprofit is seeking donations to help clean up this flood. Find out how to give by clicking on this story on ktvq.com. Now let's head to Columbus, where a pretty neat project is underway to return an area scorched by wildfire to its original glory. Back in 2021, the Robertson Draw Fire destroyed nearly 30,000 acres just outside of Red Lodge. 10,000 acres was Bureau of Land Management land. It was covered in sagebrush, a critical plant for the threatened sage grouse species. Special K Ranch in Columbus, a nonprofit working ranch for adults with developmental disabilities, is now planting sagebrush seedlings in that area, helping both the birds and BLM.
The perennial flowering plants are what the sage grouse chicks need for those first 3-5 months of life. So if they have just patches of this stuff, well, that's what's important.
Special K's goal is to reseed 8,000 of the 10,000 acres BLM lost in that fire. It's a big task. Abortion issues take center stage in the Montana Supreme Court. This time, it's a challenge to a 10-year-old law that's taken an entire decade to reach the state's higher court. In 2013, the Montana legislature passed House Bill 391. This prohibited anyone under 18 from getting an abortion without notarized written consent from their parent or legal guardian. It never went into effect, as Planned Parenthood of Montana sued over it, and the office of then Attorney General Tim Fox accepted a preliminary injunction. It's bounced around courtrooms in Montana ever since, until finally last year, a district judge ruled it infringed on the right to privacy, which is enshrined in Montana's Constitution. Current AG Austin Knutsen's office appealed that decision, bringing us to arguments yesterday.
Whatever interest the state has in promoting parental authority must be exercised neutrally, not as to favor childbirth over abortion, and certainly not to step in the shoes of parents to regulate the family relationship. And that is what the state is doing here.
As is typical, the court took no immediate action after yesterday's arguments. We'll continue to follow that case. And a judge in Helena has ordered the state to go ahead with a poll on whether lawmakers want to overturn a veto Governor Greg Gianforte made on the final day of the 2023 legislative session. Lawmakers say they were not informed the bill was vetoed before they adjourned the session, and a case was filed in district court to open up the chance for a veto override vote. So when the governor vetoes a bill, the lawmakers, the body usually has the opportunity to overturn that, and this year they did not. Senate Bill 442 used tax revenues from marijuana sales for conservation, veterans' needs, and county roads. The ruling does not guarantee lawmakers will be able to override Gianforte's veto, but it does start a 14-day clock for the governor and the Montana Secretary of State to either initiate a vote to override the veto, appeal the district court's ruling to the Montana Supreme Court, or both. And as Montana's ban on TikTok continues to make its way through the court system, the White House is throwing its support behind a new bill that could give the president the power to ban that app nationwide. Some lawmakers say TikTok brings national security concerns for its connection to the Chinese government. As CBS's Jared Hill reports, the company behind it continues to argue user data is safe.
The future of TikTok, known for everything from dance videos to thrifting tips,
$30 and they're Gucci and they're fabulous and they're yes,
could be hanging by a thread. Today, the U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee is reviewing a new bill that would require TikTok to separate itself from its Chinese-based owner, ByteDance, or else face being banned in the U.S.
This bill is a choice, and it's a choice for ByteDance, as well as any other social media app controlled by a foreign adversary.
Lawmakers have long expressed concerns about the national security risks of TikTok. In 2022, President Biden signed a bill banning the app on government phones, all amid fears users' personal information could fall into the wrong hands. Though Biden's re-election campaign just joined the app earlier this year.
Instead of being fed whatever the opaque Communist Party-controlled algorithm dictates, Americans will then have real freedom of thought and expression.
Now, users like Kim Pham, who leans on the app,
so follow us to come along on this journey
to bring customers to her noodle company, worry about a world without the platform.
It wouldn't kill us tomorrow, but TikTok as a platform has represented a very kind of meaningful and new way that we reach consumers.
TikTok CEO has argued that the company has firewalls in place to protect user data. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Meanwhile, a state law that would have banned TikTok in Montana didn't take effect as scheduled on January 1st of this year because a federal judge put it on hold while a lawsuit challenging that bill goes forward. According to the Daily Montanan, last week, the state filed its opening brief with the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, contending that the state's consumer protection interests outweigh First Amendment concerns that the lower court used as a partial basis to block that law. We'll continue to follow that. And on the national level, President Joe Biden delivers his annual State of the Union address to the nation tonight. Speaking before Congress, the president is set to discuss the economy, immigration, and the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Biden will work to build a case for his re-election in November, when he's expected to face a heated challenge from former President Donald Trump. And we've got a great feature piece for you now. The Hangar Band is a romanticized piece of American culture. Young, aspiring rock stars practicing for the big time and annoying their neighbors with their rock and roll. But when you have 18 band members, the garage isn't quite big enough. Q2's Marcus Kokova takes us to the Columbus Airport, where Montana musicians have plenty of space to play.
We are in a hangar in Columbus, Montana. And why are we here?
We've got a great bunch of musicians here, and they love to come and play, and we're called the Hangar Band.
Why the Hangar Band? I mean,
We're
specifically.
kind of in the hangar. Well, I started flying with Northwest Airlines when I was 23 years old. Now retired in 1997.
Why an airplane hangar? What's going on?
I'm the new girl, so that may be too historic of a question for me.
Practicality. It was during COVID, and nobody had any gigs. So I just started calling up a few guys, and they called a few guys, and pretty soon we got an 18-piece band of some of the finest musicians around.
I showed up with my tenor saxophone and sat down, and Art goes, "By the way, you're the director." And I went, "Ah!"
1, 2, 3, go! Everybody here is having a ball. You probably noticed that.
Even though it's only once every 2 weeks, it's something that at least and I think everybody else looks forward to.
Yeah, there's no doubt about the fun. Some of them drive 100 miles just to rehearse. From Cody and from Bozeman, and we do it to raise money for kids for music and art. We've sent numerous kids to Red Lodge Music Camp.
Education is life, so you should always be learning something.
Music education programs in the schools are a long-term benefit that the public doesn't generally recognize.
When I was in school, the only reason I wanted to go to school was for band.
I started playing the accordion in the 5th grade.
Was in jazz ensemble in high school.
Started in the 7th grade.
6th grade is where we started.
You become one with music if you play it.
It's everybody's language.
Across generations, it goes across nationalities, it goes across regions and states.
It's a great form of expression. But to me, it's about the teamwork.
When all the band's playing together and we're really all on all cylinders, you know, it's just a really good feeling.
It came together like it was supposed to.